Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Author Journey. I'm Anne O'Connell with OC Publishing, and today is a very, very special Author Journey day, a different day. We normally air every other Tuesday afternoon, but today it is party time, and I think you know what that means. It means that it is launch day for Lynda Faye Schmidt's long-awaited, very anticipated novel, The Holding. It's right behind me here. There we go. Prequel to The Healing. And she has been on Across Canada book tour and is now in my hometown of Halifax, Nova Scotia. I'm so excited. I'm going to bring her up to join me momentarily. But I just wanted to share with you just some of the pre-launch reviews and today's review on launch day. The feedback has been absolutely phenomenal. The issues that are addressed in Lynda's books are very heavy, deep issues, but she approaches them in such an inspirational way that also highlights, resilience and overcoming adversity. So, very. I'll have her share a little bit more about that, but right now, I just wanted to read a little excerpt from a review that was done today on Goodreads by Valeria Tellis of Fit for Joy. And she says, "The Holding is a beautiful invitation to create, heal, and transform. It's a calling to live from your heart and explore life with creativity, hope, and kindness despite challenges. I love Kate's deep connection with her father, her hopeful heart, and her faith. This too shall pass. The stories in the book relate to challenging life experiences that have become empowering statements of resilience, transformation, and inner light. This is a must-read book for anyone ready to open to discover, rediscover, and redefine the meaning of healing and love." I think that's a beautiful intro, and I'm going to bring Lynda up to join me. Hi, Lynda.
Hi.
Welcome. Hey, happy launch day.
Thank you, Anne.
My party hat off now. We'll put that
I'm
on.
so thrilled. I'm just over the moon, Anne. And I can't even discern what I'm most excited about because there's a whole bunch of first times happening for me on this cross country tour, but especially here. I'm 56 years old and I've never been to Eastern Canada. Sad to say, and this is my first time, so I'm just kind of spinning.
For those of you who are watching and don't know, Lynda is from out west, what we, Easterners call out west, originally from Alberta, born and raised, went to school in Calgary. So if anybody's out there watching and wants to give a shout out to Lynda, please do so. As we're chatting, if you have questions for Lynda, please feel free to pop them in the comments, and we'll get to them as we chat. But let's jump right in. Tell us about this cross Canada tour. It's very exciting. You've had tons of stops. You've been in Victoria, Vancouver, Winnipeg. You're here in Halifax. Share some of the highlights of this sort of first time. Oh, and also just for those of you who are watching, we launched Lynda's first book a year ago today, the Healing, and The Holding is the prequel to The Healing. And her cross Canada tour got halted for obvious reasons. You're in the midst of a pandemic. Yeah, right. So right now, I really give you a whole lot of credit for persevering, keeping that momentum going, and then just really, being determined to do the launch now. And so you have been highlighting both books. So, tell us a little bit about what's going on with this tour and what the reception's been like.
Sure, and it's been so fun. So, as you said, I didn't get to last year. And last year, you and I talked. I was in Panama with my husband and my youngest daughter. And that was a beautiful experience. Don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining, but there wasn't the same feeling as there is this year with me being on a tour and going and doing the book signing events, and all of it's new and exciting. And of course, I didn't know what to expect because, as you mentioned, things are still lifting in various degrees at various times and intervals in each city and even within each bookstore. So I really had difficulty. I live in Saudi Arabia, for anyone who doesn't know, and trying to get that sorted from Saudi Arabia turned to be something that basically came up flat with zero. When I came to Canada, I had zero bookings. So I arrive in Victoria, where my mother lives and my middle daughter, and wanting to get all this family connection in, but like boom, hitting out the pavement the very first morning, contacting bookstores, seeing what I could get set up. And I ended up being very fortunate that I was able to book with Chapters Indigo. And I think they were somewhat motivated because they wanted to open, and I already had my books available online with them. So it went pretty smoothly. The manager was really wonderful in just accommodating and getting a table set up for me. And it's been like that. I've really been fortunate that every city on my tour, I've been able to get a book signing event. So I started in Calgary, in Victoria. Then we took the ferry, it's all a blur, took the ferry to Vancouver, had a book signing there. We were only there for 2 days, flew to Calgary, had a book signing there, flew to Winnipeg, and there's family and friends all immersed in all this as well. 5 weeks and 6 cities and tons of family and friends. And then Winnipeg was just before we came here to Halifax, and I have 2 here and 1 more in Toronto, the last city. So it's been a whirlwind. I did write a blog about it. If any of you follow my Musings of a Emotional Creature blog on my website, it was so long. Usually my blogs are 3 to 4 pages. This was 7. So I decided, and that's half. So I'm doing it in 2-part series. And if you are an aspiring writer or you want to do a tour, maybe there's some tips in there or some advice on how to keep your head up and stay positive, because I've had to dig deep a few times. But truthfully, and the whole experience, I love it. I just love how I feel in this moment. Like I'm really becoming who I've always dreamed of being. I'm becoming an author. And I love how that feels.
You are an author.
Like,
you're not becoming an author. You are an author. And I want to just reiterate that your blog, Musings of an Emotional Creature, can be accessed through lyndafayeschmidt.com, correct? As we're scrolling by on the bottom, jot down
that's me.
email address, and you'll get a link to her blog. You'll get a link to all of her books. But talk a little more about, this whole book marketing thing is not for the faint of heart, right?
No, it's been a massive learning curve.
And just the ups and downs, right? So,
that's why my theme for April was self-growth and transformation, because it's been through the roof, breaking the glass ceiling and shattering it of just the things that I just didn't know before. And I was a little bit intimidated, to be honest, at first, but I just had to shrink it down to 1 step at a time, one new learning event at a time, and not look at the big picture.
Yeah.
Because it would have been overwhelming. And I also decided to, because I'm a bit spiritual, if you can say a bit, and I just decided to be open to what the universe brought me, what opportunities presented, and if something came my way, I followed it, even if it seemed a little bit uncertain as to whether it was a good alignment. I just decided I'm going to explore everything that gets brought to my attention, and if it works out, great, and if it doesn't, it's a learning point. So it's a win-win.
It is.
I've learned a lot.
Yeah, it's a steep learning curve. And so, but I think that your perseverance and your determination and your passion are wrapped up in the messages that they're bringing forward as well. And they're messages that resonate with a lot of people. It's challenging times for us all. Life, is brings different types of situations, but I think that it's really, your message is so important. Talk a little bit about what the main themes are and the messages you want people to come away from when they read The Healing and the Holding?
Well, even though they are a series, and each book, I would say the main messages of hope, um, and overcoming adversity and developing a resilience, those run over both novels.
Mhm.
But then I also am finding out that they attract a fairly different audience, and they both really kind of stand on their own. And I've had several people ask me on the tour, oh, gee, they're trying to decide, they only have a budget for one book. Which one should I read first? That kind of thing.
That's not fair
And
to ask you.
I know, right? So, but my answer has been depends how you work as an individual and how you like to do things. If you like things to be in chronological order of how they occurred in time, then you should start with the prequel, which is actually the second book, The
Right.
Holding. But if you are more interested in following me through my journey and how I started and seeing my growth as a writer and as a human being, then you want to start with The Healing and go back in time.
Mhm.
So I think it's different for each person. But then I've had people, young women in particular, who've been in difficult relationships are just drawn like magnets to The Healing.
Mhm.
And in fact, at the Winnipeg signing, it was so touching. And I had a woman come by, and she was kind of distracted and looking around, and she thought maybe I worked there. And she was like, "Can you tell me where to find?" And then she was like, "Oh, geez, you don't work here. Sorry." And he said, "Yeah, what are you doing here anyways? And what's this all about?" And then so I was telling her a little bit, but she just went just like a magnet to The Healing that was on display. And unfortunately, I had sold all my copies, or fortunately, in Vancouver. And then my box didn't arrive, as you're well aware of, because of the snowstorm, but they were available for pre-order. Anyway, she picked up the back and she was reading 2 lines, and she stopped. And then she put her hand to her heart and she said, "Oh, there's a reason why I came over here for help. And it wasn't to find out the book that I thought I wanted. It was to get this."
Oh.
And she went and ordered her copy of The Healing. And then she opened up and she said to me, "Thank you for creating a safe space for me to feel like I could open up
Oh,
my
wow.
own story." And
Mm.
I was like,
Mm.
that alone, right? And I just had all these special opportunities to connect with people along the way. And that means as much as anything else. I'm an author, so obviously I want to sell books in order for that to be my living. But it's more important to me that I do so from a place of integrity and character, and that I always stay true to who I am through the process, that I don't fall for gimmicks to promote myself, and that I just really be honest and open with each person who comes and takes time.
Yeah.
And that's one of the nice things about being a new author without a lineup going out the door. I can actually
You can really engage. Well, and that's what I
really
love about you. And some of the conversations that you've had really do support and reinforce the value of really contemplating, reflecting on situations, working through things, figuring out, where your strengths are and how to overcome, which also is very encouraging as we work on the next little surprise, um, that we'll share more information about a companion journal that will be coming out soon. So we'll share more information. So I think it's a really nice place to pause and maybe have you read an excerpt from the book, if you would be so kind. I'll
Yeah,
highlight.
I'd be delighted to do that.
Okay.
The excerpt I chose is actually right near the beginning. I've been sharing some of the passages on my YouTube channel, and they're more near the end. And I think because it kind of builds momentum and gets more impacting as you move along. But today I wanted to share one near the beginning because I wanted to reinforce what I've been telling people when they ask me about the holding and kind of what's the time frame and where does it pick up. And I've explained that the holding goes back to the beginning when Kate Henderson is born and goes up into her 30s. And so the other thing I've been really wanting people to take away from this is the father-daughter bond, the unconditional love that Kate feels from her father. And truthfully, in her entire family of origin, her mother and her brother are a part of that. But the focus of the book is the father-daughter relationship. And so I feel like this passage sets the tone of what's going to happen in the book. So this is right in chapter 1, and William and Donna, Kate's parents, have just arrived at the hospital a little earlier than they had planned for the arrival of their daughter. And this is back in the days when you didn't have an ultrasound and you didn't know what was about to happen. Nurse Peaver finds William pacing the hallway outside the waiting room. She leads him down the hospital corridors to the ICU. There is only one clear plastic crib. William moves up close to the glass window. His baby girl is squalling, her face as red as a ripe beet. Her tiny arms flail about, naked and exposed, having escaped the swaddling of receiving blankets. Plastic oxygen tubing trails from each nostril. She looks so frail, more like a doll, William says, choking on tears. How long does she have to stay in this incubator? It's too early to tell, Nurse Peaver says. But I've been at this work a long time, and I think she'll be out of here sooner than later. William places his hand on the window and stares at his little girl. Something switches inside his heart as a fierce protectiveness is ignited. Daddy's here, he whispers, fogging up the glass. So I think that gives you a good foreshadow into what is about to unfold between these two characters.
I love that passage, and there are so many. You've asked me before what my favorite, passages are, and there's just too many. So, and maybe that's kind of a cop-out answer, but you have picked out one of my favorites. I was, the opening scene just pulls you right in. It's intense. The scene is when, the mother Donna is in labor. It's early labor, 6 weeks early. It's dark and stormy night, to see a little, and they're hammering on the door of the hospital. And what I liked about that is it kind of sets up the timing of now, mind you, there are some ERs that are closed around our province right now in Nova Scotia, but, it does bring you back to the time, 56 years ago, when the little kid was born. You talk a little bit about the whole issue of trust, and it sort of wraps up in the theme of resilience. And you talked before about people asking you, how does Kate rebuild the trust after she's, suffered, several situations of abuse, from, in the situation when she was a child and then later on as a teen. What's the message there? Like, how can you trust after something like that happens to you?
Yeah, that's a great question, Anne. And I think it's something that I've pondered for a long time, and I think is complex, as life often is.
Mm.
And I don't think it's the same for everyone, but I do think there are some overriding themes, if you want, that are true for all people. And in my experience with my teaching background, getting to know children from all different backgrounds, I feel like this has really held true for me, that I've seen that every one of us needs to be witnessed and treasured by at least one person as we're arriving into the world. Like, to me, that's the minimum for you to be able to overcome things. Mm. And without that, I see children, I worked with children for many years who suffered from extreme emotional and behavioral issues. And you could see as soon as you got to know their family history, why? Because they were born into parents who just were unable to. And it doesn't mean that they didn't love them, but they didn't have the skill set or the resilience themselves. And you see how these things often go in cycles. And so for all, I want to maybe say that my personality and my own set of skills is a positive contribution to that ability to be trusting. And sometimes that can be not as good. Everything has two sides to it, right? Everything has a positive and a negative. But I would say that I was so fortunate because I knew without any question that I doesn't wasn't just loved, I was adored. I was treasured. I could do nothing wrong. I think Donna says at one point in the book when Kate's all flustered because she's having trouble with her riding bicycle scene, or maybe it was the baseball scene. There's many scenes that highlight her lack of hand-eye coordination and athletic ability. And her dad, William, is super athletic, so he just can't understand how this person with his genetics is not able to do this.
Such klutz.
And she just, and she's like, "Oh, I think Dad's disappointed in me." And Donna says, "Oh, you know, your dad thinks you're the bee's knees." And then she's like, "What does that mean?" It means you can do nothing wrong
You can
in your father's eyes. And I did feel like that. And so that was, to me, something really important that needed to come through, even though it is a fiction based on real life. I really wanted that aspect to be in full alignment and in honor of what my father gave to me, because he just seemed to do it so effortlessly, like those gymnasts in the Olympics who just, they worked hard.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that he even did work hard at it, to be honest. I just feel like it was one of those gifts. It's even more magical when it just happens,
I think what's really what I really liked about the healing and the holding is, even though in the holding you're highlighting the main theme that Kate's resilience comes from this strong father-daughter bond, there's also a personal evolution that demonstrates that, because not everybody has that, one other person that adores them and glorifies them. And people do come from broken homes, like you said, but there's the very spiritual part of her being as well, that she draws on, and in particular, after her dad passes. So I don't think that's a spoiler, because that's sort of the side circle of life. So just briefly, sort of top line a little bit about how that part of Kate, and even in your own personal life, that has sort of helped you through some of the tougher times.
Yeah. So, and I'm glad that you brought that up, and because it wouldn't be very hopeful if you have to be born into something and you don't get to pick that
Right.
in order to be strong. So I'm not saying that it's impossible, but it makes it a lot harder. And to really get that fullness, I think it's trickier. But I wrote a blog about this as well, about what creates that. And I do think that it's something that you can nurture and grow. Absolutely. I believe that influences later in your life can smooth out those rough edges for you. And there's always hope that there's a new tomorrow. And so I would say therapies that are discussed more in the healing when she's older. But, even in the holding, you see Kate grappling, you see her struggling despite that beautiful family. You see these very traumatic events scarring her, and she struggles with eating disorder and self-confidence. She struggles to feel loved with a man in a relationship, in a partnership. But she gets up, she's so busy that she doesn't have that much time. And that's true for a lot of people as well. But she's always been a voracious reader, and she starts picking up self-help books that hopefully will do that sort of thing for her. And she also goes back to church, which she had given up for several years. And that's close to my own. My relationship with God has been all over the map. And there's been times that I've been like, there's no way a God can exist when this is happening and that. And then it's like, oh, it's so clear that God exists. And then it's like everything.
That you just sort of probably define almost everybody's, relationship with, whatever deity, may or may not exist.
Yes. And sometimes I've been comfortable using the word God, and sometimes God hasn't felt like the right word to describe where I'm at in my spiritual journey.
Yeah.
And I just think it's so unique for everyone. But I do think that your spiritual self, however you come to that, is absolute, if not as significant, even maybe more as that family of origin, of finding your route to that, trusting yourself to figure out what that is for you. And like I said earlier about the book tour and looking for opportunities, if something comes your way that touches your heart or resonates with you, that's your spirit. It doesn't have to be something that someone else told you. It doesn't have to be in a Bible or a Quran. It can be completely your own journey.
You're right. And I mean, we'll delve a lot more into that as we get close to launching the companion journal. But before we
I'm so excited about it. Yeah.
I know, I'm very excited. Before we wrap up, I wanted to let everybody know who's here in Halifax, and a shout out. Hi, Cindy. Cindy Tingley is watching us.
Hi, Cindy.
And says
she's been amazing. I'm so excited to meet her.
Yes. Well, and she had her series of children's Bible stories, the Lily's Adventures, are all about self-esteem and and finding your strength and having faith in yourself and others and a higher purpose. That sort of will resonate with a younger audience. And she says, it appears that your books are so very vital in this time of pandemic. You give such hope and healing to all who read your books. Thank you, Cindy. It's so true.
Thank you, Cindy.
And that box of books that did not make it to Winnipeg in the snowstorm are here in Halifax. Lynda will be signing books at Chapters or Indigo Spirit in Bedford on Wednesday in the afternoon. What time is that? From 1 to 3. And then at Chapters Dartmouth on Friday, the 29th, from 4 to 6. And we'll be putting out more notices of that. So make sure you stay tuned and please drop by and see Lynda at Chapters. And we're going to continue the celebration. Lynda, do you have any other? We have, hi.
Yeah.
Carol Kajula is with us here. Ooh, oh, wait.
I can never figure out the screen. Before any of those happen, it's party after this. Anne and I are together along with a few other people who've been integral to the journey. And unfortunately, not everyone's been able to come because of the C word, but we're going to enjoy ourselves. We're going to have a great time. We're going to be safe. Don't worry, anybody. We're going to be all, no one who's been in contact is coming. Everyone's being super thoughtful.
Very, very safe. And I also want to give a shout out when you talk about the team and everybody who's been involved. I want to give a shout out to our design team, the cover of the holding, the beautiful cover photo is an original photograph by Danielle O'Brien, who's a very talented photographer. And the book design itself was done by David Edelstein, who is a very, we have David on our design team on many, many projects. And the Healing, which was the first book, it's an original watercolor by a Nova Scotia artist named Krista Wells. So we're all very happy to have those folks. And I would also be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to our editing folks, our editing team, Mary Ann Ward and Sarah McFarlane. Just so lucky to have the team that we do at OC Publishing, and just such a delight to work with you, Lynda, and have you as a friend. And we're really very excited for you. Happy launch day. If you have any other thoughts.
And that's the biggest shout out, and is to you. I am forever grateful because none of this could have happened without you. Were the very first domino in the set. And I just think you're magnificent. You are conscientious. You have such a great skill set. You work your butt off, and you coordinate all the things that. When people ask me about self-publishing, and I was like, there's too many things with that I don't know what to do, like covers and like editing. And you've taken those pieces and shown me the way and guided me through that. And yeah, it's
a true partnership.
I'm so fortunate. Yeah.
Really, thank you very much for saying that. It is a partnership.
And I also, sorry, interrupting that.
Oh, no, it's okay. We're very excited.
I can do that. I can get excited, anyone who knows me. But I have to do a shout out to my husband, my partner, David. He has been the most solid rock of support from the beginning. He's financing everything for me with the most generous heart of like, whatever you need, baby, it's yours. I'm supporting you. Secretly, I think he's hoping it's going to switch one day. No, I'm just kidding. He gives without any expectation, fully, 100%. That's the unconditional love that I'm talking about, and
Incredible.
yeah, he's a big part of my foundation. So
Movie rights are available to anybody who's interested. Yes, I think I see this as a series. It could be a series, could be like an epic film. So stay tuned. Much more to come. And Lynda is working on her next book, and the goal is a book a year. So stay tuned, and we'll be sharing more about Lynda's journey. Thank you so much for joining us, Lynda, and I'll see you very
thank
shortly
you for having me.
on the author journey for today. And my mouse is not working. So we really appreciate everybody watching. If you have any, thoughts or questions, we'll be re-airing this. It's going to be on the YouTube channel, LinkedIn, and on Facebook, OC Publishing Facebook page. So for now, we'll say adios. And enjoy this beautiful weekend. Happy spring, and it's party time. Congratulations to Lynda on the launch of the Holding prequel to The Healing. And again, for those of you who are here in Halifax, please do come and visit Lynda at Chapters Dartmouth on Friday and Indigo Spirit in Bedford on Wednesday. So we'll see you next time on the author journey. But for now, this is Anne O'Connell. See you soon. Oops, I'm still here. Hang on. My mouse, don't you love this? My mouse isn't working. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on the author journey.